How to Read Theft by Deception by Anna von Reitz. There is a wonderful exposé that has been kicking around the patriot community since 2010, called Theft by Deception. The author did a great job of painting the framework of the great fraud. The problem with it is that the people reading it don't have the background to interpret it correctly. So today, we are going to take a direct quote from Theft by Deception, and I am going to annotate it, so that you can read it and know who is doing what and make sense of what is being said. Start by realizing that wherever you see the words, the United States, the author is talking about a foreign commercial corporation which is a subcontractor of our American government. Wherever you see the words, the United States of America, the author is talking about another foreign commercial corporation subcontractor of our American government, which sometimes acts as a rival of the United States, Incorporated. Since the 1870s, both these foreign service vendors have been operating as incorporated entities, and their business has been overseen by the members of the District, Territorial Congress acting in two separate capacities. As the District Congress, what you are familiar with as Congress today, they oversee the District of Columbia Territorial Government, organized as a commercial corporation in the business of providing government services, that is, the United States of America, Incorporated. As the Municipal Congress, the same members put on a different hat and serve as the plenary government of Washington, D.C., and serve the interests of a different commercial corporation, the United States, Incorporated. Throughout the following except from Theft by Deception, the entities being described are these corporations and actions undertaken by members of Congress acting as their respective boards of directors. Always remember that the actual American government is unincorporated. Also remember that only incorporated entities can go bankrupt. So our American government is not and never has been bankrupted, sold to anyone, or merged with any other corporation at all. All that talk about bankruptcy that has been the focus of so much concern, directly impacts our foreign service providers, not us. Even though I disapprove of using all capital script, I am going to use it today to distinguish between the words of the actual quoted material from Theft by Deception, and my annotations which appear in all capital text below. Quote from Theft by Deception. On the night of December 23, 1913, the United States Congress passed the Federal Reserve Act and thereby committed the greatest act of treason in history. Note: the group taking this action is the Municipal Corporation Board of Directors. It surrendered this nation's sovereignty and sold the American people into slavery to a cabal of arch-charlatan international bankers who proceeded to plunder, bankrupt, and conquer this nation with a money swindle. Note: they didn't have any power to surrender this nation's sovereignty. This was an in-house business swindle involving the administration of the municipal corporation and its citizenry, federal civil service employees and their dependents, not rank-and-file Americans. The money the banks issue is merely bookkeeping entries. It costs them nothing and is not backed by their wealth, efforts, property, or risk. It is not redeemable except in more debt paper. The Federal Reserve Act forced us to pay compound interest on thin air. We now use worthless notes, backed by our own credit that we cannot own and are made subject to compelled performance for the privilege. Note: this is a good explanation of what the Federal Reserve Act promoted as a fraud scheme, but we are not obligated to it. This swindle was adopted by a commercial corporation and applies only to its own citizenry, its employees and dependents. From 1913 until 1933, the United States paid the interest with more and more gold. Acting in breach of trust, the municipal corporation borrowed our gold, had none of their own. The structured inevitability soon transpired. The treasury was empty, the debt was greater than ever, and the United States, the corporation, declared bankruptcy. Note: they hoped that by declaring bankruptcy they could avoid the necessity of paying back our gold, and in fact, they dumped the cost of their bankruptcy on U.S., but their foreign principals remain responsible for this circumstance and debt to this day. In exchange for using notes belonging to bankers who create them out of nothing on our own credit, we are forced to repay in substance, labor, property, land, businesses, resources, life in ever-increasing amounts. This may have been the greatest heist and fraud of all time. It is indeed a theft and fraud, which they foisted off on the American people in breach of trust via crimes of personage, claiming that we were all part of their municipal citizenry, when we are not. When a government goes bankrupt, their corporate government, not ours, it loses its sovereignty. In 1933, the United States Municipal Corporation declared bankruptcy, as expressed in Roosevelt's Executive Orders 6073, 6102, 6111, and 6260. House Joint Resolution 192 of June 5, 1933, confirmed in Perry v. United States, 1935, 294 U.S. 330-381, 79 L. ed. 912, as well as 31 U.S.C. 5112, 5119, and 12 U.S.C. 95A. The bankrupt United States Corporation went into receivership, reorganized in favor of 115 creditors and new owners. In 1913, Congress turned over America, lock, stock and barrel, to a handful of criminals whose avowed intent from the beginning was to plunder, bankrupt, conquer, and enslave the people of the United States of America and eliminate this nation from the face of the earth. Not America, the United States Corporation only. The goal was, and is, to absorb America into a one-world private commercial government, a New World Order. On March 9, 1933, President Roosevelt called for the passing of the War Powers Act Title I-2 U.S.C. Section 95, A, and 95B. This act declared all United States citizens, that is, the citizenry of the other commercial corporation, the district service provider, to be the enemy of the United States government, and placed them under permanent emergency rule, bypassing constitutional constraints on government. Note: war powers were never granted to any incorporated entity. Although the actual government in charge of the capital is plenary, it is plenary for one purpose only: to provide a neutral meeting ground at the federal capital. With the Erie R.R. v. Tompkins case of 1938, the Supreme Court confirmed their success. All this case really confirms is that the federal subcontractors do not have access to general common law. What they left out is that they do have access to a form of military common law. We are now in an international private commercial jurisdiction in colorable admiralty maritime under the law merchant. No, we aren't, they are, and they are treating us as if we were part of their unfortunate citizenry when we are not. We have been conned and betrayed out of our sovereignty, rights, property, freedom, common law, Article 3 courts, and the Bill of Rights has been statutized into civil rights in commerce. You have destroyed the Republic. America has been stolen. Not exactly. The Federal Republic was rendered inoperable in 1860, so no news there. The Federation of States received back the Republic's delegated powers by operation of law. No part of our government was stolen by these con artists. Instead, we have been misrepresented as municipal citizens, and as such subjected to their law. It remains for us to repudiate any claim of municipal citizenship. End of the quoted and annotated material from Theft by Deception. As you can see, the situation and position of the actual Americans is very, very different from the situation for federal civil servants who work for and are dependent upon the United States Incorporated. But if you were to read this without the specialized knowledge contained in the annotations, you would be left with the idea that we were all bound to the same circumstance as the federal civil servants. That's what the perpetrators always wanted you to think and assume, so that they could continue to play their deceptive games and go on plundering and pillaging the general populace. Not just federal civil servants who make up the citizenry of the municipal corporation. It remains for us to gain the skill needed to read material like Theft by Deception from our own point of view, not theirs. And as at our standing and status as Americans who are not members of the city or the district.